Hey guys, yesterday we talked about Minka Fitzpatrick, and part of that trade was Jonnu Smith also heading to the Steelers, where he signed a 1 year, $12 million contract, which is something the Dolphins weren't willing to pay after 1 year of production by Smith in this offense. Yesterday, they followed that move up by trading for former Raven, Raider, and Giant Darren Waller, and they signed him to a 1 year deal worth up to $5 million. The incentives aren't known, but if Waller doesn't make the team or doesn't produce, that cap hit's probably going to be a lot less. And if you thought that losing Jonnu Smith was a massive blow to the offense, there's not much I'm going to say here to be able to comfort you. But if you're like me and you felt that Jonnu's production could be easily redistributed to other skill position players, particularly ones whose production dipped in 2024, and that whatever targets are remaining can be replaced by just about anyone talking about the screens, the outlet passes, that type of thing, then you might be willing to enter this discussion with an open mind. The cost for Darren Waller was a conditional sixth round pick to the Giants, and in return, they got Darren Waller and a conditional seventh round pick. The conditions for either of those picks are not known. I think it essentially ends up being a wash if he doesn't make the roster. And even if he does, it's still a low cost move if he meets whatever those conditions are. Looking back over, Darren Waller's career, he obviously retired after the 2023 season. He's going to turn 33 before the 2025 season starts. He was a sixth round pick out of Georgia Tech by the Ravens. He had 2 seasons with the Ravens, didn't play much, missed 4 games in 2016 with substance abuse, and then he missed all of 2017 with a 1 year suspension for violating the league's substance abuse policy. But, on the plus side, that's the last that I was able to find anything that had to do with substance abuse for Waller. He was reinstated in August 2018. He was released by the Ravens a month later and then signed to the practice squad. And then 2 months after that, in November of 2018, he was poached by the Raiders from that practice squad. Only had 75 yards in 2018. 2019 is where he really took off. He had 90 catches, 1,145 yards, and 3 touchdowns. He was ranked the number 99 player overall by his peers. 2020 bumped that up to 107 catches, 1,196 yards, and 9 touchdowns, and was up to number 35 overall. And then in 2021, had a bit of a dip there, had 55 catches, 665 yards, and 2 touchdowns, but that was in 11 games, and he was still ranked number 58 overall by his peers. The following year, 2022, he signed a 3 year, $51 million contract with the Raiders, made him the highest paid tight end in the league, and then he was on pace for over 700 yards, but only played in 9 games that season. I think it's worth noting that when Waller signed that contract, the team was heading into a new coaching staff, and I think that likely had to do with him not being viewed the same way by the new coaching staff as the old one, being part of the reason that he was traded to the Giants in 2023 for a compensatory third round pick. In 2023, he suffered a hamstring injury and he spent several weeks on IR, and then he retired after 2023. And there's a video clip out there of Waller talking about having to be, basically an insert or lead blocker 3 times in a row and being on the sideline and realizing that was, it was time for him to retire. I think if you go back and you look at how Jonnu was asked to block by the Dolphins, I don't think he was asked to be an insert or lead blocker very often. So I'm not too concerned with that, and I'm sure that Waller's usage was part of the conversation before he agreed to come out of retirement. I think it's also worth noting that prior to getting to Miami, Jonnu's previous career high was 582 yards. And, Waller had, I think it was 4 seasons with more than that before he came to Miami. Waller also told John Gruden in an interview earlier this year that he would only return to play for Gruden, who was the Raiders coach from 2018 to 2021, which was the years that Waller was with the Raiders, and also current Miami Dolphins offensive coordinator Frank Smith, who was the tight end coach there from 2018 to 2020, which included Waller's most productive seasons as a pro. Returning from retirement, age 33, obviously concerned, but Waller's only played just over 4,000 career snaps. If you compare that to Jonnu, who is now over 5,000, you don't think the wear and tear on the body, is as far apart as you may think looking at the age. Injuries, obviously a concern with Waller. He's missed games in each of the last 3 seasons that he played. But in the end, this is a low cost, low risk, essentially a supersized wide receiver that shouldn't be asked to block often, which was similar to what we'd say about Jonnu. And if he's available, I think that he can catch every pass that Jonnu did in 2024. Not necessarily looking for that same volume, but I think stylistically, there's nothing that Jonnu does that Waller can't replace. And like I said at the top, I'm not concerned about the offense's ability to replace Jonnu's contributions, and he didn't offer much in the run game. And let's not forget that Jonnu was not viewed as a Pro Bowl caliber player when he came to Miami in 2024. So, in my opinion, the addition of Waller is a high upside move that's got minimal impact if he doesn't pan out. And I think this should really be viewed as another good move by Chris